This is a question to both Prime Minister Starmer and President Zelensky, if I may. You are the coalition of the willing, but you're unable to stop President Putin without US support. How disappointing is it that President Trump won't at the moment provide long-range Tomahawk missiles? And is the President right when he says you'll hopefully be able to get the war over without them? Can you? And PM Starmer, if I may, this domestic question. Overnight you suffered a disastrous election loss in Caerphilly, a seat that's been a Labour-held seat for over a century. Was it a gut punch for you? And if you can't turn this around in the Senate elections next May, will you have to go? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beth. Let me start with the question of Ukraine, because it is really important that we address the support that we're all able to put in, particularly as we go into the winter. And here we have the coalition of the willing today, you had the EU yesterday, but we are all working with President Trump, and therefore we're all working as one wider coalition here in relation to the support we need to put in for Ukraine. On missiles, we've put in more missiles from the UK in recent days and weeks, and pushing the case for long range. It is really important that we do have long range, and those discussions are ongoing. And of course the protection of energy, because Putin is attacking the energy in Ukraine, and that needs protection. We've had discussion today about how we can stop those attacks and how we can better protect those energy supplies. On the question of the US, what's happened this week is really significant. I think on the sanctions package and the bearing down on oil and gas, this week has been a very significant week because we went early with the measures that we, the UK, took. President Trump came in with really important measures that have had a real impact. And then, of course, the EU followed in with a further package of sanctions this week as well. And I think if I was to pick out one thing this week that was of most significance, it would be the combined impact of those packages, not only because of the impact they have on the Russian economy and the pressure that they put on, but also because they demonstrate the point that whether it's the coalition of the willing, the EU or the US, we are all coordinating clearly in our efforts to support Ukraine, and effectively doing so. The other thing I would point to is the progress made on Russian assets. Yesterday the EU took a very important step forward, and there was absolute clarity in this afternoon's meeting that we need to see that progress come to fruition within a short timetable, because that would be a really material further support that we can put in for Ukraine. So when we said that the ambition really this week, if you like, is to take Russian oil and gas off the global market, we've taken a significant step forward. I would also add that the measures or the movement in position by India and China in relation to Russian energy and oil in particular are also significant. I think what you'll detect behind that is the sort of coordination and discussions that are going on, have been going on today, are going on between us pretty well all of the time, and having a very significant impact on Russia, because we must put Ukraine in the strongest position. This is going to be a hard winter, of course, particularly when it comes to protecting energy, and it is very important that whilst, of course, we want to get to a ceasefire and a lasting peace, we will, in my view, only get there if we put Ukraine in the strongest possible position, and we must never lose sight of that aspect of it. I mean, I'm really pleased to see the coalition of the willing so determined and united on this. Of course, to some extent, the coalition was set up to answer the question, what about security guarantees? But to see this wider coalition now working in a coordinated way, I think it really reinforces why the coalition of the willing is so important. In relation to the by-election, look, I'm deeply disappointed by the results. I'm not going to suggest otherwise. I spoke to the First Minister this morning, and clearly we need to reflect and regroup and double down on the delivery in Wales, and we clearly need to do much more.